Chapter 3004 delves deeper into the complex power dynamics within the Lab clan, revealing Mr. Lab's calculated moves to solidify his control over the family. At the center of his strategy is his desperate need to find Titus, the child who holds the key to his ultimate power. Meanwhile, Carrie finds herself further entangled in Mr. Lab's schemes, struggling to maintain her cover and avoid suspicion from those who are beginning to see through her disguise. Mr. Lab's position within the Lab clan is one of authority but not true ownership. Despite his formidable skills and ability to manage the clan effectively, he knows that his power is temporary. The real power lies with Titus, a child who, when he grows up and returns with the family's tokens and totems, will be the rightful heir to the Lab clan. Mr. Lab understands that when this happens, he will be forced to relinquish all the power and influence he has built. The Lab clan's most powerful connections are loyal to Titus, which makes Mr. Lab's position even more precarious. This reality drives Mr. Lab's relentless pursuit of Titus. He believes that if he can obtain the family's tokens and totems before Titus grows up, he can silence the boy and secure his position as the true master of the Lab clan. However, his plans hit a roadblock when he suspects that Titus may be the adopted son of Jane, but he cannot confirm this suspicion. The FC Manor, where Jane and her adopted son reside, is heavily protected, and any attempt by Mr. Lab to breach it could provoke the wrath of powerful entities like the Five Emperors Hall, a mysterious and influential organization that operates globally. Despite the Lab family's power, Mr. Lab is cautious not to overstep his bounds and risk confrontation with such a formidable force. Amid these grand machinations, Carrie is trying to navigate her role as Mrs. Lab. She is aware that her deception is starting to unravel, particularly with Serenity and Cameron growing suspicious of her true identity. She realizes that her repeated encounters with Serenity at the kindergarten, where Serenity picks up her nephew Sonia, are risky. To maintain her cover, she suggests to Mr. Lab that she needs a child to accompany her, someone she can pretend is her sister in law's child. This would make her appearances at the kindergarten more believable due suspicion. Mr. Lab agrees with her suggestion and promises to arrange a child for her to act with, along with a man to play her supposed brother in law. This would further solidify her alibi and make it harder for Serenity and Cameron to provoke their suspicions. He advises her on how to manage her phone, reminding her to keep it muted when she's in public as Mrs. Lab. This would prevent any calls from her real sister from raising alarm if her phone rang at an unopportune time. Mr. Lab's strategic thinking is evident as he anticipates how Serenity and Cameron might try to expose Carrie. He knows that their most likely tactic would be to see if Carrie and Mrs. Lab could appear in the same place at the same time, which would be impossible if they were the same person. Carrie, though initially overlooking some of these details, begins to understand the depth of Mr. Lab's planning. His awareness of Cameron and Serenity's intelligence and resourcefulness shows how seriously he takes the threat they pose to his plans. Mr. Lab's ability to think several steps ahead makes him a formidable and terrifying figure, capable of manipulating those around him to serve his goals.